Ever feel like you're invisible, like you could disappear and no one would even notice? This is the story of Ashley, a woman you might pass in the hallway without a second glance. But beneath that quiet exterior lies a heart full of love, a spirit about to be awakened, and a secret that could change everything. Are you ready to see the world through her eyes? Ashley's day began like any other. The pre-dawn sky was still a deep indigo as she slipped out of her small apartment, careful not to wake her mother, Mary. The familiar ache in her joints was a constant companion, a reminder of the long hours spent scrubbing, polishing, and making other people's lives a little bit easier. She worked as a cleaning lady in one of Manhattan's gleaming high-rises, a monument to wealth and privilege. Each morning she arrived before the city truly woke, navigating the silent corridors, a ghost in a world of marble and glass. The residents, busy executives and socialites, rarely acknowledged her presence. A fleeting nod, a mumbled "good morning," was the most she could expect. In their opulent apartments she tidied up lives she could only dream of. Gleaming kitchens with state-of-the-art appliances, walk-in closets overflowing with designer clothes, breathtaking views that stretched across the city. It was a world away from her cramped apartment in Queens, where the peeling wallpaper and the constant hum of the radiator were the soundtrack to her life. But Ashley didn't begrudge them their wealth. She was a simple woman, content with simple pleasures. Her world revolved around her mother, Mary, whose health had been failing for years. Mary was Ashley's rock, her confidant, her everything. It was Mary who had instilled in her a sense of kindness, a belief in the goodness of people, even when the world seemed determined to prove her wrong. "You have a good heart, Ashley," Mary would often say, her voice raspy but filled with love. "Don't ever let anyone take that away from you." And Ashley never did. Even as she scrubbed toilets and emptied trash cans, she held on to that kindness, that unwavering belief in the power of love. It was what kept her going, what gave her the strength to face each new day. Her days were a blur of repetitive tasks, dusting furniture, vacuuming carpets, polishing silver. The silence of the empty apartments was broken only by the whir of the vacuum cleaner and the gentle hum of the air conditioning. She was a shadow, a whisper, barely there at all. The contrast between her life and the lives of the residents was stark, a constant reminder of the chasm that separated them. They lived in a world of endless possibilities, while she felt trapped in a cycle of poverty and anonymity. She was invisible, a worker bee buzzing in the background, her contributions unnoticed, her existence unacknowledged. Yet, in the quiet moments, as she gazed out at the city skyline from the penthouse windows, a flicker of hope would ignite within her. A hope that maybe, just maybe, things could change. A hope that one day she too could escape the invisible walls that confined her. That evening, as she was cleaning Mr. Harrison's office, a renowned lawyer known for his sharp wit and even sharper deals, she overheard a hushed conversation. He was on the phone, his voice low and urgent. "Make sure it's handled. No loose ends. Understand?" The words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken meaning. Ashley froze, her heart pounding in her chest. She shouldn't be listening, she knew, but she couldn't help herself. Something about the tone of his voice, the secrecy of the conversation, sent a shiver down her spine. Little did she know, this seemingly insignificant moment would be the spark that ignited a fire within her, a fire that would ultimately lead her down a path she never could have imagined. Sarah felt her heart racing as she approached the old wooden door. The next evening, Ashley found herself back in Edward Sterling's office at Sterling Corp., the familiar scent of lemon cleaner filling the air. The city lights twinkled outside the panoramic windows, a stark contrast to the gnawing unease in her stomach. She diligently wiped down the mahogany desk, trying to focus on the task at hand, to block out the memory of Mr. Harrison's secretive phone call. But the words echoed in her mind. "Make sure it's handled. No loose ends. Understand?" Then, as she was emptying the trash bin, she overheard voices coming from just outside the office door. It wasn't a phone call this time. It was a real, live conversation. She recognized one of the voices instantly. Sarah, Edward Sterling's impeccably dressed secretary. The other voice was deeper, male and unfamiliar. "The numbers have to be adjusted," Sarah hissed, her voice unusually sharp. "Marina is getting impatient. If we don't show a significant increase by the end of the quarter, it's risky, Sarah," the other voice replied, sounding nervous. "Someone could find out. The auditors. That's why we have to be careful." Sarah cut him off. "Marina won't tolerate failure. We both know what she's capable of." Ashley froze, her hand gripping the trash bag so tightly her knuckles turned white. She couldn't see them, but the tension in their voices was palpable, thick enough to cut with a knife. She didn't understand what numbers they were talking about, or who Marina was, but the word risky and the veiled threat in Sarah's tone sent a shiver of dread down her spine. This wasn't just office gossip, this was something far more sinister. The conversation continued, hushed and hurried, filled with cryptic phrases and veiled allusions. Ashley strained to hear every word, her heart pounding against her ribs like a trapped bird. The pieces of the puzzle were slowly starting to fall into place, revealing a disturbing picture of corruption and deceit. It was like a dark cloud that started to take shape. She knew deep down that she shouldn't be listening. She was just a cleaning lady. Invisible, insignificant. What business was it of hers what the executives at Sterling Corp were up to? But something had shifted within her. The words she overheard sparked a flicker of indignation, a burning ember of outrage that refused to be extinguished. Her mother, Eleanor, had always taught her the importance of honesty and integrity. "Always do what's right, Audrey," she'd say, her voice firm but gentle, "even when it's hard." Eleanor, relying on her daughter's support, would never survive such a blow. But what was the right thing to do? To stay silent? To pretend she hadn't heard anything, to protect herself and her mother from potential danger? Or to speak up, to expose the corruption, even if it meant risking everything? The thought of Marina Sterling, this powerful woman getting away with something so wrong, filled Ashley with a sense of impotence. The voices outside the door faded away, leaving Ashley alone in the office, the weight of her discovery pressing down on her. The familiar routine of cleaning suddenly felt meaningless, trivial in the face of what she had just overheard. She could feel the change inside her. She wasn't just going to be a passive observer anymore. She looked at her reflection in the dark glass of the window. The woman staring back at her was the same yet different. The invisible cleaning lady was starting to see herself and the world in a new light, a light that demanded action. But fear, a cold and paralyzing fear, still held her in its grip. She had to tell someone. But who? Could she trust anyone at Sterling Corp? And what if she was wrong? What if she had misunderstood? The consequences of making a mistake could be devastating. She thought of Eleanor, her frail mother, and the fear intensified. As she gathered her cleaning supplies, Ashley knew one thing for sure. She couldn't ignore what she had heard. She had stumbled upon something dangerous, something that could change her life forever. The whispers in the walls had called her to action, and she couldn't turn away. But taking that first step, deciding to act, felt like stepping off a cliff into the unknown. The fear of what might happen next threatened to consume her. Ashley felt a knot tightening in her stomach. The weight of what she'd overheard was almost unbearable. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was in way over her head. Cleaning supplies clattered in her trembling hands as she finished up in Edward Sterling's office. She needed to talk to someone she trusted. Her thoughts drifted to her mother, Eleanor. Even frail and confined to her bed, Eleanor possessed a strength that always amazed Ashley. She was the only person Ashley truly confided in. With a sigh, Ashley grabbed her bag and headed home, the city lights blurring through the bus window. The small apartment felt cold and empty, despite the warm glow of the lamp beside Eleanor's bed. "Ashley, is that you, dear?" Eleanor's voice was weak, but filled with the familiar warmth that always calmed Ashley. "Yeah, Mom, it's me." Ashley forced a smile as she approached the bed. Eleanor's face was pale, but her eyes, though tired, were bright with concern. "You seem troubled, sweetheart. What's wrong?" Eleanor reached out a thin hand and gently squeezed Ashley's. Ashley hesitated, unsure of where to begin. I overheard something at work tonight, Mom. Something bad." She recounted the hushed conversation, the talk of adjusting the numbers, and the name Marina Sterling hanging heavy in the air. Eleanor listened intently, her brow furrowed with concern. When Ashley finished, a long silence filled the room. Ashley watched her mother, anxiety churning in her gut. Would Eleanor tell her to stay out of it, to protect herself? Finally, Eleanor spoke, her voice soft but firm. "Ashley, you have a good heart. You always have. You know right from wrong." Ashley looked down, feeling tears prick her eyes. "But Mum, what if I'm wrong? What if I make things worse? I could lose my job, and what would happen to you?" Eleanor squeezed her hand again. "Honey, I know you're scared, but you can't let fear control you. You have to do what you believe is right. Think about what kind of world we'd live in if everyone stayed silent when they saw injustice." Ashley looked up, meeting her mother's gaze. She saw not just love, but unwavering faith in her. It was a faith that Ashley hadn't felt in herself lately. "But Marina Sterling, she's powerful, Mom. She could crush me." "And she might," Eleanor admitted. "But you have a strength inside you too, Ashley. A quiet strength, but it's there." It's the strength of your convictions, the strength of your love for me, and the strength of your belief in justice. Don't underestimate yourself." Eleanor's words resonated deep within Ashley, stirring something she thought had been lost. She remembered the countless times her mother had stood up for what she believed in, even when it was difficult. She remembered the lessons Eleanor had taught her about honesty, integrity, and the importance of helping others. "Remember when Mrs. Henderson tried to cheat you out of your wages at the dress shop?" Eleanor asked, a faint smile playing on her lips. "You were just a little girl, but you stood right up to her and demanded what was rightfully yours. You were fearless." Ashley chuckled softly, a warmth spreading through her chest. She had almost forgotten that little girl, the one who wasn't afraid to speak her mind. "You can do this, Ashley," Eleanor said, her voice filled with conviction. "I know you can. You are strong, you are capable, and you are good. Trust your instincts and let your conscience be your guide." Looking into her mother's eyes, Ashley saw a reflection of her own potential. The fear was still there, but it was no longer paralyzing. It was now mixed with a newfound resolve, a burning desire to do what was right, not just for herself, but for her mother and for everyone who had been wronged. A deep breath filled Ashley's lungs. She wasn't just an invisible cleaning lady anymore. She was Eleanor's daughter, and she wouldn't back down. "Okay, Mom," Ashley said, her voice firm. "I'll do it." She knew this decision would change her life forever. She was stepping into the unknown. A dangerous path lay ahead. But for the first time in a long time, she felt a sense of purpose, a sense of hope. The whispers in the walls had called her to action, and she was finally ready to answer. Now, she just needed a plan. Sarah felt her heart racing as she approached the old wooden door. "No, wait, that's not right." Ashley felt her heart pounding. "That's it." Ashley felt her heart pounding in her chest as she stared at the spreadsheet on her bus ride home. The numbers swam before her eyes, each one a tiny, damning piece of evidence. Her mother's words echoed in her head. "Trust your instincts, and let your conscience be your guide." Easier said than done. Trusting her instincts meant risking everything. But ignoring them, that felt even worse. The bus lurched, throwing her against the window. She gripped the worn seat, trying to steady herself. It wasn't just about the numbers. It was about the people they affected, about the lies, the greed. Marina Sterling's name kept popping into her head. Why was her name beside so many of the manipulated figures? Ashley had to know more. Back in her small apartment, the air was thick with the scent of Eleanor's lavender soap. Eleanor was sleeping soundly in her armchair, a worn quilt tucked around her. Watching her mother sleep, Ashley felt a surge of protectiveness, a fierce determination. This wasn't just about some faceless corporation anymore. This was about Eleanor, about their future. She tiptoed to the kitchen table, pulled out a notebook, and began to write. A plan. She needed a plan. Not just to expose the corruption, but to protect herself, to protect Eleanor. The idea of going to the police flashed through her mind, but she quickly dismissed it. Who would believe a cleaning lady against the Sterlings? She needed proof, undeniable evidence. She thought about Cara Miller, the data analyst on the 5th floor. Cara always seemed to have her head screwed on right, and she wasn't afraid to speak her mind. Maybe, just maybe, Cara could help. The thought gave Ashley a sliver of hope. It wouldn't be easy. She knew that. Marina Sterling wasn't going to just hand over the keys to the kingdom. There would be obstacles, dangers, but she wasn't the same Ashley she was yesterday. Eleanor's words had ignited something within her, a fire she couldn't ignore. Taking another deep breath, Ashley wrote down her first goal: contact Cara Miller. It was a small step, but it was a step nonetheless. She wasn't just an invisible cleaning lady anymore. She was an agent of change, a seeker of justice, and she wouldn't back down. That night, sleep didn't come easy. Every creak of the building, every passing car sounded like a threat, but beneath the fear, a new feeling began to bloom. Courage. She was scared, yes, but she was also determined. She would expose the truth, no matter the cost. Tomorrow she would talk to Cara. Tomorrow the investigation would begin. Tomorrow Ashley would cross the line. But first, she had to get some sleep. She needed to be ready. Sarah felt her heart racing as she approached the old wooden door. The next morning, Ashley arrived at Sterling Corp, a knot of anxiety tightening in her stomach. She needed to talk to Cara, but first, she had to face Edward. She found him in his office, already buried in paperwork. "Edward, can I talk to you for a minute?" Ashley asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Edward looked up, a frown creasing his forehead. "Ashley? What is it?" "I'm swamped." Taking a deep breath, Ashley plunged in. "I overheard something about Marina, about the accounts. I think there's something wrong." Edward sighed, rubbing his temples. Ashley, I appreciate your concern, but I'm sure it's nothing. Marina is a very capable CEO. There must be some mistake. He dismissed her with a wave of his hand. I really don't have time for this right now. Humiliated and discouraged, Ashley retreated. Edward didn't believe her. Who would? She was just a cleaning lady. Things went from bad to worse. Later that day, Mrs. Davison, the head of building maintenance, called Ashley into her office. Ashley, I'm sorry, but I have to let you go. Your services are no longer needed. Fired. Just like that. Despair washed over her. How was she going to pay the bills? How was she going to take care of Eleanor? The weight of her responsibility felt crushing. That evening, Ashley sat beside Eleanor's bed, watching her sleep. The rise and fall of her chest was the only sound in the small apartment. The worry etched on Eleanor's face, even in sleep, tore at Ashley. She had to do something. For Eleanor. Suddenly, a flicker of hope ignited within her. Kara. She still had to try. The next day, Ashley waited near the elevators on the 5th floor, hoping to catch Kara. After what felt like an eternity, she saw her, her brow furrowed as she juggled a stack of files. Kara? Kara Miller, Ashley called out, her voice trembling slightly. Kara stopped, looking surprised. Yes? Do I know you? I'm Ashley. I work in cleaning. I need to talk to you. It's important. Kara hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Okay, let's go grab a coffee. At the coffee shop, Ashley spilled everything. She told Kara about overhearing Marina's conversation, about Edward dismissing her concerns, about getting fired. She spoke with a raw honesty that surprised even herself. Kara listened intently, her expression growing more serious with each word. When Ashley finished, Kara leaned forward, her eyes filled with determination. I believe you, Ashley. I've had my suspicions about Marina for a while now. Some of the data just doesn't add up. Relief washed over Ashley, so potent it almost brought her to her knees. Someone believed her. She wasn't alone. I can help you, Kara continued. I can access the company's internal systems. I can look for proof. A new wave of fear crashed over Ashley, but it was quickly followed by a surge of hope. Are you sure this could be dangerous? Kara smiled, a glint of steel in her eyes. Justice always is, Ashley, but we can do this. Together. She paused, then added, I know a few things. The best way to find out more will be to get inside the company. Kara explained that a temporary position was opening in the mailroom. It wasn't glamorous, but it would give Ashley access to internal documents and a reason to be in the building. Ashley's heart pounded. It was risky, but it was her only chance. I'll do it, she said, her voice filled with newfound resolve. I'll take the job. Kathy, a friendly secretary, overheard their conversation and smiled warmly at Ashley. I overheard what you were talking about, Ashley, about Marina Sterling. I've seen some things too, things that don't seem right. I can help you navigate the system and introduce you to people. I can keep an eye out. Ashley was stunned. Another ally? Really? Why would you do that? Ashley asked, her voice thick with emotion. Kathy shrugged. It's the right thing to do. Besides, someone has to stand up to her. Ashley suddenly felt a surge of hope and determination. She wasn't alone in this fight. She had allies, people who believed in her and were willing to help. Maybe, just maybe, she could actually expose the truth. That night, as Ashley applied for the mailroom position, she felt a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in years. She was no longer just an invisible cleaning lady. She was a warrior, fighting for justice, for her mother, and for herself. The next morning, Ashley received a call. She got the job. The tests had begun, and she had allies by her side. It was time to infiltrate Sterling Corp and uncover the truth. Sarah felt her heart racing as she approached the old wooden door. Wait, sorry, wrong story, let's rewind. Ashley took a deep breath, the Sterling Corp building looming before her like a steel and glass giant. This wasn't just a job, it was a mission. Thanks to Kathy and Kara's help, she was in. Temporary mailroom clerk. Not exactly glamorous, but it was a foot in the door, or rather a passkey to the labyrinth. Stepping inside, the air crackled with a different kind of energy than she was used to. No longer invisible, at least not entirely. She was Ashley, mailroom staff, still low on the totem pole, but now she had a reason to be here, a purpose. Kathy, bless her heart, met her at the reception desk. Welcome to the jungle, Ashley, she whispered with a knowing smile. I'll show you around. The mailroom was a chaotic symphony of paper, packages and hurried footsteps. Ashley felt a pang of anxiety. Could she really do this? Find the evidence she needed without getting caught? Kathy guided her through the maze of desks, introducing her to the other employees. This is Ashley, Our new temporary clerk. Be nice. Everyone seemed busy, focused on their own tasks. Ashley tried to memorize faces, names, anything that could be useful later. She felt like a spy in enemy territory. Her first task was sorting mail, mountains of it. But amidst the junk mail and inter-office memos, she started to see a pattern. Invoices, expense reports, financial documents. The lifeblood of Sterling Corp flowed through her hands. She kept her eyes peeled, listening to conversations, observing the office dynamics. Sarah, the CEO's assistant, seemed to be everywhere, her sharp eyes missing nothing. Ashley felt a shiver run down her spine. Sarah was definitely someone to watch out for. Days turned into weeks. Ashley settled into the routine, learning the ins and outs of the mailroom. She became more efficient, more observant. She was no longer just sorting mail, she was gathering intelligence. Kathy was an invaluable ally. She provided Ashley with inside information, warning her about potential pitfalls and pointing her in the right direction. "Sarah's always snooping around," she whispered one day. "Be careful what you look at when she's near." The pressure was mounting. Ashley knew she was running out of time. Marina Sterling wouldn't stay oblivious forever. The closer she got to the truth, the more dangerous it became. One afternoon, while sorting through a stack of invoices, Ashley found something that made her heart skip a beat. A series of suspicious transactions hidden behind cryptic codes and shell companies. This could be it, the evidence she'd been searching for. But as she reached for her phone to take a picture, she heard a voice behind her. "Having fun with the mail, Ashley?" It was Sarah. Her eyes were cold, calculating. Ashley's blood ran cold. She had been caught. Ashley, trying to hide the panic in her voice, smiled nervously. "Just getting the hang of things, Sarah. It's a lot of mail." Sarah didn't smile back. She stepped closer, her gaze fixed on the invoices in Ashley's hands. "Let me see those." Ashley's mind raced. What could she do? She couldn't let Sarah see the evidence. Not now. With a surge of adrenaline, Ashley grabbed the invoices and stuffed them into her pocket. "Sorry, Sarah, gotta go, lunch break." She turned and fled, leaving Sarah standing there, her face a mask of fury. Ashley knew she had just made a powerful enemy, but she also knew she was one step closer to exposing the truth. That night, back in her small apartment, Ashley spread the invoices out on her kitchen table. Kara was already there, waiting anxiously. "Did you find anything?" Kara asked, her voice filled with hope. Ashley nodded, her eyes shining with determination. "I think I did, but it's not going to be easy. They're watching me now." Kara looked at the invoices, her brow furrowing in concentration. "These codes, they're complicated, but I think I can crack them." As they worked late into the night, deciphering the hidden messages, Ashley felt a surge of hope. She wasn't alone in this fight. She had allies, people who believed in her. And together, they were going to expose the truth no matter the cost. The pressure mounted, the labyrinth revealed its secrets, and danger lurked in every shadow. Ashley's investigation had reached a critical point, putting her squarely in the crosshairs. Sarah didn't waste any time. That afternoon, Ashley found a note on her locker, a single word scrawled in harsh block letters. "Meet." The fear tightened its grip on Ashley's chest. She knew what this was about. She found Sarah waiting near the loading docks, a shadowy figure against the afternoon sun. "You shouldn't have taken those invoices, Ashley," Sarah said, her voice dangerously low. "You're playing with fire." Ashley stood her ground, though her knees threatened to buckle. "I know what you're doing. I know about the fake invoices, the offshore accounts." Sarah laughed, a cold, cruel sound. "You think you can stop me? You're just a cleaning lady. No one will believe you." That night, Ashley returned to her apartment, the air heavy with dread. She had to warn Kara to protect the evidence. But when she opened the door, she found the apartment ransacked. Papers were strewn everywhere, drawers pulled open. The small space a scene of utter chaos. The invoices, they were gone. Panic clawed at Ashley's throat. She ran to the phone, her fingers trembling as she dialed Kara's number. No answer. Again, she tried. Still nothing. Fear turned to icy dread. Then the phone rang. It was the hospital. Mary had taken a turn for the worse. Ashley rushed to the hospital, her heart pounding with each step. She found Mary pale and weak, her breathing labored. "Mom," Ashley whispered, taking her hand. Mary squeezed her hand weakly. "Ashley, be careful." The doctor pulled Ashley aside. "I'm sorry, Ashley. We're doing everything we can, but—" His voice trailed off. As if the weight of the world wasn't already crushing her, Ashley received a call the next morning. It was from a detective. Sarah had fled the city, leaving behind a trail of shell corporations and missing funds. The investigation was underway, but the chances of recovering the evidence were slim. The detective sounded weary, like he'd seen this kind of thing 1,000 times. Ashley felt the last flicker of hope die within her. She had failed. She had let her mother down. She had let everyone down. The corruption would continue unchecked, and she was powerless to stop it. Days turned into weeks. Ashley moved through her life like a ghost, numb and broken. She couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't shake the feeling of utter defeat. She had believed she could make a difference, that she could expose the truth and bring justice to those who deserved it, but she had been wrong. She was just a cleaning lady, invisible and insignificant. She sat by Mary's bedside, watching her fade a little more each day. The medical bills were piling up, adding to the crushing weight of her despair. She was running out of money, running out of hope, running out of time. One evening, as Ashley sat alone in the hospital waiting room, staring blankly at the floor, a voice startled her. "Ashley?" She looked up, her eyes red and swollen. Standing before her was Edward Sterling. He looked different, older, his eyes filled with a sadness she hadn't seen before. "I heard what happened," he said softly. "About Sarah, about the investigation, about your mother." Ashley just stared at him, unable to speak. Edward hesitated, then reached into his pocket. He pulled out a small, crumpled piece of paper. I may have something that can help, something Sarah left behind." He looked at her, his eyes filled with a mixture of hope and determination. "It's a long shot, but I think it might be worth a try." Ashley looked at the paper, then back at Edward. A tiny spark of hope flickered within her, a fragile ember in the darkness. Could it be possible? Could she still fight back? "What is it?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Edward leaned closer, his voice low. "It's a list of names and numbers. I think it might be the key to everything." He paused, then added, "I want to help you, Ashley. I want to help you expose the truth." Sarah felt her heart racing as she approached the old wooden door. "What is it?" Ashley asked, her voice barely a whisper. Edward leaned closer, his voice low. "It's a list of names and numbers. I think it might be the key to everything." He paused, then added, "I want to help you, Ashley. I want to help you expose the truth." Relief washed over Ashley, a wave so powerful it almost knocked her off her feet. It wasn't just the possibility of justice, it was the knowledge that she wasn't alone. Edward, of all people, was offering her a lifeline. "Why?" she asked, her voice still shaky. "Why now?" Edward sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I've been blind, Ashley. Naive. I saw what Sarah was doing, but I didn't want to believe it. I let ambition cloud my judgment. And now I see the damage she's caused. To you, to your mother, to everyone." He looked directly into her eyes. "I need to make things right. I need to help you." They spent the next few hours huddled in the hospital waiting room, poring over the list. It was cryptic, filled with code names and account numbers, but Ashley, with her intimate knowledge of Sterling Corp's inner workings, and Edward, with his access to resources, began to piece it together. This could be it," Ashley said, pointing to a particular entry. "This account, it matches the shell corporation Sarah was using to funnel money." Edward nodded grimly. "And this name, and it's a known associate of hers. We can use this, Ashley. We can expose her." A plan began to form, a risky, audacious plan to lure Sarah back and force her to confess. It was a trap, carefully constructed using Edward's resources and Ashley's understanding of Sarah's weaknesses, her arrogance, her greed, her need to control everything. "We'll leak information about a lost document," Edward explained, "something Sarah would kill to get her hands on. We'll make her think she can salvage everything, that she can escape again." Ashley nodded, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and determination. "And when she comes for it, we'll be waiting." The days that followed were filled with tension. They worked tirelessly, coordinating with Kara and Kathy, who provided crucial support from the outside. Edward used his contacts to spread the false information, carefully crafting a narrative that would appeal to Sarah's vanity and desperation. Ashley, meanwhile, focused on the details, ensuring that every piece of the trap was in place. Finally, the day arrived. Ashley and Edward waited in a darkened office, the supposed location of the lost document. The air was thick with anticipation. Every creak of the floorboards, every distant siren, sent a jolt of adrenaline through their veins. Then she arrived. Sarah, looking haggard and desperate, slipped into the room, her eyes darting around nervously. She moved quickly, searching for the document, her hand trembling as she reached for a file cabinet. "Looking for something, Sarah?" Ashley's voice cut through the silence. Sarah whirled around, her face contorted with rage. "You!" she hissed. "You little nobody! You thought you could outsmart me. I'm not alone, Ashley replied, stepping into the light. Edward emerged from the shadows beside her. Edward? Sarah's voice was filled with disbelief. How could you? I opened my eyes, Sarah, Edward said, his voice cold and hard. I saw what you were doing, and I'm not going to let you get away with it. The confrontation was brief, but intense. Sarah, cornered and desperate, tried to deny everything, but the evidence was overwhelming. Edward played recordings of her conversations, presented documents detailing her illegal activities. Finally, broken and defeated, Sarah confessed. The confession was recorded, witnessed, and handed over to the authorities. Sarah was arrested, her empire crumbling around her. As Ashley watched her being led away, she felt a profound sense of relief. The woman who had caused so much pain was finally facing justice. But the relief was tempered with something else, understanding. She saw the fear in Sarah's eyes, the desperation that had driven her to commit such acts. She realized that justice wasn't just about punishment, it was about accountability, about understanding the root causes of corruption, and about preventing it from happening again. Sitting beside Mary's bed, Ashley held her mother's hand. Mary, though still weak, seemed more at peace. The news of Sarah's arrest had brought a flicker of light back into her eyes. You did it, Ashley, Mary whispered, her voice raspy. You were so brave, Ashley smiled, tears welling up in her eyes. We did it, Mom, we all did it. She thought of Cara and Kathy, of Edward, of all the people who had supported her along the way. She realized that she wasn't just a cleaning lady anymore. She was part of something bigger, something important. She had found her voice, her power. Ashley knew that the fight wasn't over. Exposing Sarah was just the beginning. There was still so much corruption to uncover, so much work to be done. But now, she was ready. She had learned to forgive, to understand, and to focus on creating lasting change. She had transformed from a victim into an agent of change. Ashley looked at Edward, who was standing beside her, his eyes filled with admiration. She reached out and took his hand, a silent promise of what was to come. The trap had been set, and the first battle had been won. But the war for justice was just beginning. Ashley took a deep breath. The confession was secured. The immediate threat was neutralized. But the information Sarah had revealed hinted at a much wider network of corruption, reaching far beyond Sterling Corp. This wasn't just about one woman. It was about a system that allowed such behavior to flourish, a system she was now determined to dismantle. The list Edward had provided was just the first thread. Now she needed to unravel the entire tapestry. Ashley took a deep breath. The confession was secured. The immediate threat was neutralized. But the information Sarah had revealed hinted at a much wider network of corruption, reaching far beyond Sterling Corp. This wasn't just about one woman. It was about a system that allowed such behavior to flourish, a system she was now determined to dismantle. The list Edward had provided was just the first thread. Now she needed to unravel the entire tapestry. Standing before the assembled press, Ashley felt a tremor of her old self, the invisible woman who'd scurried through hallways unnoticed. But that woman was gone. The fire in her eyes, the unwavering conviction in her voice, were proof of the transformation she had undergone. Edward stood beside her, a silent pillar of support. For too long, Ashley began, her voice clear and strong, corruption has thrived in the shadows, preying on the vulnerable, silencing those who dared to speak out. Today that silence ends. She recounted her experiences, the injustices she had witnessed, the blatant disregard for human dignity that had become commonplace within Sterling Corp. She named names, presented evidence, and laid bare the intricate web of deceit that Sarah and her accomplices had woven. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Other employees, emboldened by Ashley's courage, came forward with their own stories of exploitation and abuse. The floodgates had opened. The media seized upon the scandal, shining a spotlight on the dark underbelly of corporate greed. Sarah's empire crumbled. Her accomplices were exposed, their reputations shattered, their careers ruined. The authorities launched a full-scale investigation, promising to bring all those responsible to justice. But Ashley's victory was not merely about retribution. It was about creating lasting change, about ensuring that no one else would suffer the same fate. Sitting beside Mary, now recovering steadily, Ashley held her hand. "Mom, I did it, we did it." Mary squeezed her hand back, a proud smile gracing her face. "I always knew you had it in you, Audrey. You just needed to find your voice." Edward watched them, his heart filled with warmth. He had been so blind, so naive. But Ashley had opened his eyes, shown him the true meaning of justice and compassion. Together, Ashley and Edward established the Eleanor Foundation, named in honor of Audrey's mother. The foundation's mission was to provide legal and financial support to marginalized communities, to promote transparency in corporate governance, and to empower individuals to speak out against injustice. Cara joined the foundation, using her technical skills to expose corruption and protect whistleblowers. Kathy, inspired by Ashley's story, became a vocal advocate for workers' rights. Ashley's journey had transformed her from an invisible cleaning lady into a beacon of hope, a voice for the voiceless. She had faced her fears, overcome her insecurities, and emerged stronger and more determined than ever before. The day Ashley and Edward married was a celebration of love, justice, and new beginnings. Surrounded by family, friends, and the countless people whose lives they had touched, they exchanged vows of commitment and unwavering support. Looking into Edward's eyes, Ashley knew that she had found not only a partner but a soulmate, someone who shared her values and her vision for a better world. Years passed. The Eleanor Foundation thrived, making a tangible difference in the lives of countless individuals. Ashley became a sought-after speaker, sharing her story and inspiring others to find their own voice and power. She often visited local schools, talking to young people about the importance of courage, integrity, and social responsibility. She told them that even the smallest voice could make a difference, that even the most ordinary person could become an agent of change. One afternoon, as Ashley was leaving a school, a young girl approached her, her eyes shining with admiration. "Miss A," she said, "I want to be just like you when I grow up." Ashley smiled, her heart swelling with pride. "You don't have to be like me," she said. "You just have to be yourself and never be afraid to stand up for what's right." As she walked away, Ashley knew that her journey had come full circle. She had found her voice, her purpose, and her place in the world. She had transformed from an invisible woman into a true agent of change, leaving a lasting legacy of justice, compassion, and hope. The world saw her now, and she would never be invisible again. Her courage had not only freed herself, but ignited a fire in others, a fire that would continue to burn brightly for generations to come. The world had changed, and Audrey, the former cleaning lady, was a catalyst for that change, a testament to the power of one person to make a difference, and that was a legacy worth living.